This video is brought to you by AsRock and Z490. I've got some big news. AsRock and Intel have teamed up at Newegg. Check out the link below. You can get a motherboard, a CPU bundle with a discount. Yeah, who doesn't like saving money? You can combine the AsRock motherboard. There's several different ones to choose from. My personal pick would be the Tai Chi Z490. It's got some surprising features. It won't break the bank even at the suggested retail price, but you can combine the CPU and the motherboard and get a really good discount. It's got Nahimic audio, which is like having an add-in audio solution. It's actually a good audio solution. It's Dr. Moss, so if you want to do overclocking, you're going to get the i7 or the i9, the 10-core i9. You can overclock with this motherboard. I did it. I tested it. It works great. It's an awesome motherboard for Z490. It's PCIe Gen 4 ready. Everything that you need for the new Socket 1200 and the new Intel CPUs. So if you want the fastest single-thread performance that you can possibly get right now, well, everything from the 10600K all the way up. But you definitely want to overclock if you're going to get the 10600K or the 10900K or even the i7 in the 10th generation, and the AsRock Z490 is going to take you there. So check out the link below. Check out the special at Newegg. You can order directly from Newegg and get that bundle discount. It's really awesome. Thanks to AsRock for sponsoring this video. Oh, I've got another Linux video for you today. I'm here with Gardiner, the Linux gamer. We're not going to be talking about gaming though.
No.
Although you played Half-Life Alyx.
Yeah.
And it's pretty good.
It's pretty good.
I haven't played it at all.
Have you ever played any VR?
Beat Saber.
Beat Saber.
Which is about as much of a train wreck as you might imagine.
Yeah, you seem like a pretty coordinated guy. No? Okay. Half-Life
I'm a ballerina.
Okay, so I'll tell you a little bit of the story. So I started playing Doom Eternal right before Half-Life Alyx comes out. And I'm like, wow, Doom Eternal is like really, really fun. I'm loving this game. And then Half-Life Alyx comes out. I beat Half-Life Alyx in about 15 hours. I go back to Doom Eternal. I'm like, I am ruined for life. I cannot play another flat first-person shooter ever again.
Wow.
It's that intense. You get people shooting at you, and you're literally ducking behind cover. It is one of the most immersive games I've ever played.
Wow.
Yeah. I
figured we could do, this is one of those cool low effort videos where we can just talk about 5 or 6 videos, 5 or 6 topics or whatever. That's not enough to really be their own video, but there's a lot of happenings in the Linux world. And plus, maybe some people on my channel are not familiar with yours. You're doing a lot more Linux content than I am because, like those projects I showed you, it's like, okay, I've dumped 20 hours into this how-to, and there's literally an unfixable bug with this that maybe eventually I'll fix. And this is just not going to translate into a video.
Right. And I'm the kind of guy who's like, oh, a news topic. Let's just make some clickbait.
Yeah, I don't know. I built Greg Crow-Hartman's machine. That's fun. And then let's see. Beyond that is like how to set up RAID on Arch, and it was LVM versus Linux MD. And so it turns out LVM has RAID built in, like its own RAID functionality built in, which I'd known for a while. But when I tried it years ago, it was like super incomplete. It wasn't buggy, it just was incomplete. But Red Hat has actually put a lot of work into LVM so that you can, LVM is your one-stop shop for anything that you would need. And technically, the LVM RAID uses the MD functions for RAID, but then if something goes wrong, the tools for fixing it, you're not going to be using MD admin to manage the array. So some people are like, it's the same code, and it's like, you're wrong. For all practical intents and purposes, but technically, I guess that is correct. But it's a useless statement. It's like if it's 3 o'clock in the morning and stuff is broken, and you said that, I would strangle you because, while technically correct, it is utterly useless.
Yeah.
I guess that sort of brings up the first thing, which is we're both rocking AMD systems now.
Yeah, we are,
and that's pretty awesome. I'm rocking a Threadripper system. You got a Ryzen something or other.
I have a Ryzen 7 1800X, and I have a Ryzen 5 3700. Is that right?
There's a Ryzen 5 3600 and a Ryzen 7 3700. And I think you have the 3700, which is the Ryzen 7.
Okay, yeah.
But I could be wrong.
I could be wrong too. I'm really bad at numbers. But yes, we're both rocking AMD systems.
Yeah, and I can't help but notice a lot of people in the open source scene, Linus Torvalds, Greg Hartman, have dropped Intel for AMD. It's really kind of exciting.
It is. I'm a big fan of the Ryzen line. It's faster. It's more thermal and performant. I like it.
it's really and doing a lot of testing. I've done a lot of testing of like the Intel 10th gen CPUs they just launched, and Intel still wins a lot on single thread speed. And I also reviewed Intel's new NUC, the one I was showing you over there, that's got the 8-core Xeon in it with a Quadro, and the single thread speed there is just amazing. But it's Intel's got to be careful because they're Intel's like 6 and 8 core, and now they're 10 core desktop CPUs. That 10 core desktop CPU, its ring bus is really struggling with 10 cores. You can tell because 2 of the cores are kind of weird in terms of latency and stuff. And when you go on up to X299, we're on like the 3rd generation of X299, and the single thread performance is nowhere near as good. So it's sort of this weird place where Ryzen has much better single thread performance than those higher end Intel CPUs, but not as good as the lower end like 6, 8, 10 core desktop CPUs. But like those 6, 8, 10 core desktop CPUs are like everyman CPUs, but the Ryzen CPUs are just so much cheaper.
Yeah.
So, and then Threadripper is the same single thread performance. Like the single thread performance that you have on your Ryzen 7, I have on my Threadripper, basically. And it's not like Intel where their high-end desktop CPUs single thread are much slower than their desktop CPUs. So it's a bizarre situation if you're a system builder or if you're Linus Torvalds.
Yeah. How has the development team in the kernel implemented that so well?
Some of it has been recent patches from AMD and their team, and some of it has been growing pains because there have been a lot of things where just like poor synchronization between the developers working on the kernel and the hardware release and like microcode have not lined up perfectly to create impossible situations for hardware owners. So I'm hoping that since Greg Crow-Hartman and Liz Torvalds have these Threadripper machines, that one, that will not happen again, and two, there will be better synchronization between microcode, kernel level updates, and everything else. Because there's a lot of stuff that has to come in the kernel, things like encrypted memory. I mean, with the whole Spectre Meltdown thing, if all of the memory is encrypted and it's a different encryption key, per process or per context, like you have some system context processes and they have their own key, and then you have some user processes and that particular user has their own key. Even on a single user system, even if there's Spectre Meltdown type problems, the fact that the memory is encrypted, all those problems go away. So that is in a future, that might be a clever hack because the reason that Intel CPUs are so fast is because maybe they're not flushing hardware the way that they should. But imagine AMD being able to also not flush hardware the way that they should because it doesn't matter anymore because of encryption.
Right.
So in terms of performance, that could be amazing.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But what kind of overhead would you have for encrypting? That would be
well, yeah. I mean, you're going to get a little bit of overhead, but the overhead of that is less than just flushing your cache. Surely.
Yeah.
So,
that makes sense.
Because that's what it does now. Like the Linus Torvalds post where he was like, I'm reverting this because every time we have a context switch, something is flushing the cache, or I'm a special snowflake user land process. I want to flush the cache, which is going to negatively impact the performance of anything else that happened to be running at the same time. And he's just like, nope, this is not okay. This is bad.
Yeah, that would be cool though to have like a per thread encryption.
Yeah,
that would be awesome.
It's on the cloud providers really wanted that, and it's on Epic. Only a matter of time before it comes to the desktop. It might actually work on Threadripper just with some software. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a little over my head, I think.
We've got to work on making more Linux of the... This is why my content comes out very slowly.
I'm over here like, Ubuntu looks nice this release, doesn't it?
React video to Brian Lunduke's Linux Sucks videos.
That's basically what I do now.
I don't do anything but reaction videos. No.
Are we going to address the elephant in the room? There were comments on the last time we did videos together that you were actually my dad.
Oh, okay, that elephant. I didn't know. Yeah, that's not the case.
No, definitely not.
You're from an entirely other part of the planet.
Yes, about a couple thousand miles away.
Yeah.
Can't tell from the accent.
Yeah, and my great-grandfather was a West Virginian Sasquatch, so...
Oh, see, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I've got some Sasquatch in me, but it's pretty distant.
No, they're not related. Those are the Rocky Mountain Sasquatches.
Right, yeah. Appalachia.
Yeah, well, What's your favorite distro?
Currently, I'm running Manjaro on my home, on my office PC, and on my server, I'm running Ubuntu LTS.
That the machine that's in the corner that was in the workroom is a long-term Manjaro experiment, and so far it's actually working really well. Manjaro seems to be a great distribution for gaming because I've got I think it's got a 5600 XT in it, and I've got Steam on it, and just every few days I just go and I update it and see if anything breaks, play some games, do some stuff and see what happens. And it's had one or two weird episodes, but for the most part it's just worked.
Yeah.
Which is, that's more than I can say for Ubuntu. That's more than I can say for Debian. That's more than I can say for Fedora.
Yeah.
With that GPU.
People were giving me crap because, I just want a system that works. Like if it's a computer that I rely on to do my work, I just want the OS to just do its thing and stay out of my way and not crash and die on me, right? And so people were giving me crap because like every 6 to 10 months with Ubuntu, like something would happen, whether it was like a PPA would screw up and then bork the whole system, and then I just do a reinstall. And I haven't had to do that with Manjaro at all. Like I haven't had to do that with Manjaro. Like I think I've maybe done it once in the last 2 or 3 years of being a Manjaro user.
That particular machine has 2 GPUs in it, and the other GPU is an RX 570, I think. I think it's a 570, it might be a 580, I think it's a 570. And that is the only, there's a problem with VFIO right now on Ubuntu 20.04, and I have not had the problem on Manjaro, interestingly enough, the pass-through. Now, the Navi reset problems are still there, but I haven't really had much of a problem with it. Now, I've got another Fedora system that has an NVIDIA driver, and it's been completely stable. It has an NVIDIA card, so it's got the proprietary NVIDIA driver. And the Fedora system has been completely stable, except for twice now, whenever there has been a kernel update, and I reboot, it doesn't go into the graphical install, and then I have to log in, and so the second time it happened, I preemptively downloaded the new NVIDIA driver, because the first time it happened, it was like, oh, I just need to reinstall, but then it didn't build cleanly because I didn't think about it. And it, there's a big list of updates, and it was like, oh yeah, whatever, I don't care. It was like, oh yeah, I should have paid attention to see if there was a kernel update. Technically my fault, but and also proprietary driver problems. You get that's your punishment. But twice it has struggled with that.
Yeah.
And not on a current experiment, but I also had a little bit of trouble with Fedora with Phantom Gaming RX 5500. And like the installer worked fine, and I rebooted, and AMD GPU was good, and blah blah blah. And then it was like, I'm gonna update to kernel 5.7, and it was like, great. And I think when it rebooted, it didn't get the blobs, like the binary blobs for it that it needed, and it was just.
Are you running like the installer from NVIDIA's website?
Yeah.
Oh, see, when I have NVIDIA graphics cards on Manjaro, I use Manjaro Hardware Manager.
Yeah, that's on Manjaro and on Ubuntu, I just use the little utility.
Okay.
But on Fedora, the last couple I don't think that Fedora has a utility that makes sense, but I could be wrong. On the last couple versions of Fedora, I just run the thing from the website. There's like a little helper script that you get, but it still needs the stuff from the website. Whereas on Ubuntu, it just seems to do it for me. Although on Ubuntu, a couple of times I've had to do it from the command line as well.
Yeah.
Where it's like, I can't remove this. It's like, well, okay.
Yeah. I find that like when you do the Manjaro version, like through the hardware manager, it's way more simple, especially because Manjaro updates the kernel pretty frequently. So it'll just automatically do.
Oh, it knows you need that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was getting at. Is like, it seems like Manjaro is handling those kinds of situations better even than Ubuntu.
Yeah.
And maybe it's because I'm also trying to use VFIO, but that use case works great on Manjaro, and whereas on Ubuntu, maybe not so much.
So what distro do you end up using most of the time?
Mostly like for just like work.
Yeah.
Fedora. Yeah. Although, I've been using Ubuntu more often. I had a problem with Visual Studio Code on Fedora the other day, and I was like, is this a Fedora problem or an Ubuntu problem? And I went to I went to the Ubuntu machine and it was doing the same thing, and it was like, okay, so it's not a Fedora problem. But it turned out it was DNS. Like when I launched code, it was like, oh, let's check your plugins and see if there's updates. And there was some DNS problem, and it's like, I didn't realize that would cripple the entire package. That's weird. Yeah.
Why is that?
Yeah, I didn't figure that out. By the time I was like,
was it an Electron thing?
I was getting angry, and then it started working again. I was like, okay, I guess it's fine. But he was doing something with DNS. It's always DNS.
You know, so I don't know why this is so funny to me, but I was like working like really hard. I was like super focused on what I was doing, and I had to like log into SSH, and I was using SSHFS to do all the file system. Like I was writing on my development server. So I tried to log into SSH and I failed like 3 times to type in my password because it's kind of long and stupid. Anyway, I forgot that I had installed fail2ban.
Banned.
And it banned me on my local network. And I couldn't access the development site, and I couldn't do anything. I couldn't write code or whatever. And I was like, what the heck is going on?
Time to play Minecraft for 15 minutes.
Yeah. It was so foolish. But
yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I really like Manjaro. I don't know if I have a favorite distro right now. I still have a soft spot for Fedora. I like what Fedora is doing. I like what Red Hat is doing in terms of like the development that they're doing in the kernel.
yeah.
I love me some Kubernetes. But there's actually some content that has been prepared for Kubernetes. A really amazing community member has put in a lot of time on the Kubernetes thing, and I actually have set up a lab for that and blah blah blah. I had some work stuff come up, and I was like, oh, I can't work on this. But I'm hoping that I can do some more content around Kubernetes before too long. Linode just launched their Kubernetes engine thing, which is actually really awesome. It's way cheaper than Google.
Yeah.
Like a lot cheaper, dramatically cheaper.
Linode is just amazing. I love them. Full disclosure, they've sponsored my channel before.
Oh, and us. Use our affiliate link. Nice. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, no. Kubernetes is nice.
Absolutely. I've actually hadn't had a whole lot of experience with Kubernetes.
It's just Docker on steroids.
Yeah.
Oh, there come the downvotes. Not really. It does a lot of nice things. Like, it really, like, for your website or whatever, if you need monitoring and management and, like, manage the fleet and make sure everything's up and blah, 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 it will just do all of that for you. So, kind of.
Nice.
Sort of. You can manage all the containers.
That's cool.
Make sure everything's running. Manage ingress and egress out of the cluster, which is nice as well. So you end up with like wacky URLs, and it's like, map the wacky URL to foo.com. It's like, okay, sounds good.
Cool. I haven't. Docker is like such a pain in my butt. I'm not a big fan of Docker.
That's fine. Once you get used to using the tools, then it's like, oh. The favorite way that I have of explaining Docker is, you know how it used to be when you were working on a team and it was like, it's not working for me, and it's like, I don't know what to tell you, it works on my machine. So Docker is, we just ship your machine now.
Yeah.
I don't know, it works on my machine. Here's my entire machine.
Yeah. What was the Docker? I had to configure a Docker container for something. And I had to I had to edit the configuration file to add like a username and password or something. And I was like, how the hell am I supposed to do this? Like, I had no idea. And it took me forever to figure it out. Yeah. But eventually I did.
Well, you can map the file system in 2 different ways. You can have something that when the container is spun up, things are copied into the container from the host file system, or you can map a directory to the host file system. So like if you need to modify something inside the container, you can just map that to a local path on your host system, and that's much safer anyway, because anything that's not permanent like that, when that container is destroyed or upgraded or whatever was stored locally in that container is gone.
Yeah.
And it's also like, for some reason, every tutorial on the entire internet does not include anything about saving the logs, forwarding the logs to a syslog server, or anything like that. You can do it, but like, how would you know that something bad has happened to your container? Like, somebody could just, install a web shell on there and you would never know.
Right.
It's like, oh, I should have had the logs. Yeah, you should have had the logs. Why don't you have that in your tutorial?
Yeah.
Kubernetes. Where can they find you on the internet?
I'm at the Linux Gamer on YouTube and at the Linux Gamer on Library.
Nice.
If you haven't used library, check it out. It's really cool.
And also Twitter.
Oh yeah, Twitter at the Linux Gamer as well.
Yeah. That's some good consistency.
Yeah.
We are not that consistent at level 1.
Every other account that I have though is something completely different.
All right, well thanks for hanging out and we'll catch you later.
Thanks guys.